Hello everyone, and welcome to Disasterpiece Publishing House. I'm Dev Solovey.
And I'm Joan Metz.
And this is a show about the Wild West of weird internet literature.
Dramatic readings included. Now, Dev!
Now, Joan.
It's spooky month.
It is spooky month.
And I'm going to do the exact same bit that we did from the first scrap recording. You know what else? You know what has the same letters as spooky if you just rearrange them a little bit and don't think about it too much?
Spicy?
The SCP!
Spooky has a K in it.
No, it doesn't.
Right, I forgot. It doesn't have a K. Just bad at spelling.
God, aren't you a writer? You should know this. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the SCP Foundation.
Indeed we are. I'm excited. I'm excited
Dev,
for this.
The SCP Foundation, to me, is a lot like Pokemon in the sense that now there are way too many of them and they were better when I was a kid.
Okay.
I'm just kidding, of course. SCP Foundation, of course, everyone kind of knows it. It's kind of hard to describe unless you, already are kind of into it. But everyone kind of knows the idea of, the world and universe and stuff. But I think the more interesting thing about it is the way it's kind of evolved. It evolved into something very, very different than what it initially was. But in a way that has consistently maintained its own spirit, in a way that is really fucking cool.
I'd like to back up and so SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, right?
Yes, it does. It also stands for other stuff, but I forget lore.
Yeah. The lore is wide and sprawling, and it's malleable.
That's the thing about it that I wanted to get into. The thing that I think is neat about SCP is not so much the idea of this shared universe where everything is interconnected and but the fact that it's it's a multimedia collaborative creative project.
Yeah. So for
with a less insular community than there used to be.
Yeah.
I want to talk about first how one of my biggest not necessarily pet peeves, because it's true. It is objectively true that SCPs are creepypastas, but boiling them down to just that is really dismissive of the whole thing.
We haven't even recapped what SCPs are, and I kind of want to just do that.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm trying to fucking get into that. That's what it is. That's what I'm saying. Trying to get to is that the SCP Foundation is a vague concept. It's the SCP Wiki. It is a host to this grand collaborative project of mostly written word, but it's multimedia. It started mostly as people writing these fake documents about anomalous, spooky artifacts. The first one was a statue that snaps your neck.
Yeah.
If you look away from it. It was distributed over 4chan, and then the original writer and some of the original people came together to make a wiki and start writing more things in similar style, and kind of exploded out from there. And that's what I'm trying to get at, is that the interesting thing about SCP to me is not that it is a continuous story in a shared universe per se, but that it's a really interesting umbrella concept that a lot of people have gotten very creative with the format over the years.
Yeah, and that concept it's essentially a foundation that keeps track of anomalies. The Secure, Contain, Protect acronym, it's self-explanatory. They'll contain these anomalies. Some of them are better, left uncontained. It depends on the nature of the anomaly that they find. Some of them are even helpful in containing other anomalies.
Yeah, it's think about it like Pokemon. They've got their own Team Rocket that's up to their own no good, and they've got their own versions of SCP, but they call them something different.
They've even got types, except they're classes, not types.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so there's less sort of consistency in presentation because there are fucking 8,000 of them and more people than there used to be creating these types of things. So it's cascaded into something different that I haven't dipped my toes into for a few years. So I wanted to go back and be a boomer about it and think about the way that the site used to be. And a lot of I want to cover some of the SCPs from the 1000 series that really stuck out to me and really defined to me what I really enjoy about these initially.
Okay.
So a little rundown on how most of these are written. They're presented like documentation. They're written in an objective, oftentimes detached tone. There's a specific voice that you're supposed to write these in.
Yeah.
And the members of the wiki are very, 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 very strict about that. That if you are breaking format, it has to be within the context of, it makes sense in the piece you're reading, and you're not just a bad writer who's, trying to write a story.
Yeah.
And forgetting the way that these things are structured. I tried to pick ones that would be very easy to just read out loud, but obviously go read these at your own time. There's images. It's usually broken up into what the item number is, what the object class is, special containment procedures to kind of build suspense before the description of what the object is, so that way it kind of leaves you going oh shit, this is all the stuff that they keep this thing in.
Yeah.
So then by the time you get to the reveal of what the thing actually is, it recontextualizes that other piece of objective writing.
Yeah.
Or objective toned writing,
Yeah. And one of the things that's interesting about that kind of introduction, you touched on it a little bit, it allows you to immediately subvert a reader's expectations just by setting up the premise. You can make it, from those 3 details seem like something that is harmless and yet needs super high level containment, has the potential to be really harmful. You can you can just completely jar the reader, throw them a curveball. And once you get familiar with this format, you kind of, you see what you can do to bend it and work with it. One
of my favorite ones, basically, just they create an entire piece of writing around basically this dangerous thing. Oh, is it dangerous? We don't know. Just it is impossible to keep documentation of it or remember what it is as soon as you leave this site. It is impossible to keep it in your skull or to write down anything. So we just don't know what it is. And there's a lot of art to the way that it is described.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel a lot of that is lost if you're watching a video of a guy narrating a thing.
Yeah.
Which is why I have chosen specifically ones that are interesting to dramatic read or for people to follow along with. So I thought that we would play a little game here. I am going to read a couple of these out for us today, and I want you to guess more or less what the SCP is based on me reading the name out loud.
Okay.
And that's how we're going to start.
All right.
So the first one today is going to be, and this one's going to be an easy one because we've talked about this one before. SCP-504, Critical Tomatoes. Now, what do you think the critical tomatoes are, Dev?
Oh, I vaguely know about this one. It finds people who do bad jokes.
Yes!
That's
yes,
what it does.
You do remember this one. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured that this is a good, a good way for us to get started with these today. Okay, so, item number, SCP-504, object class, safe. And then there's a photo of some tomatoes on the vine.
Can I see?
Yeah, you can see right here.
Yeah, it's just tomatoes.
Just fucking tomatoes.
Picture tomatoes.
Special containment procedures. All seeds, plants, fruit, crossbreeds, and other products of SCP-504 are to be classified as SCP-504. SCP-504 seeds need no special containment other than to prevent misuse by unauthorized personnel. Grown SCP-504 plants and their fruit should be kept in soundproof rooms. Guards and researchers assigned to maturing or growing SCP-504 are to be equipped with radio-enabled masks, which insulate non-transmitted sound, and are to be instructed to avoid attempts at humor. So you can see the kind of tone that it's going for. There's this sort of detached, subjective or objective tone it's trying to capture, but also there's this awkwardness in you're trying to describe this is a thing that's going to fly at you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that kind of mismatch between subject matter and tone of voice is part of what makes SCP so interesting, because there's only so many ways you can tell these are tomatoes that attack people who tell bad jokes. But if you tell it in this specific cadence, I feel like that adds to the intrigue.
And it also, like, it adds to, like, I think a fundamental aspect of the SCP Foundation that a lot of, like, evil or, like, government organization type stories don't, where it's just like, nah, there's a lot of weird shit. They have a way of doing things that is very specific to its internal dogma, and they do not shy away from that, for better or worse. And that oftentimes leaves them describing very human experiences in an alien way, and they play with that a lot of ways. To kind of detach themselves from their own humanity. And that's kind of interesting when you're...
Yeah.
And it shows even in a funny little... That's the funny thing about it, too. There are joke ones, and then there are ones that are canon, but then are also just funny. Like, this is hilarious. Tangent over. SCP-504 is a species of tomato physically and genetically identical to that of the typical commercially grown tomato. It was recovered in Redacted, Kentucky, after a woman reported to the police that her farmer husband had been, quote, murdered by his lunch. The Foundation is currently working to identify and destroy loose strains of SCP-504 in the surrounding commercial farming areas. When a poor attempt at humor is made verbally within human hearing range of SCP-504's tomatoes, they instantly accelerate to a speed of at least 100 miles per hour, parentheses, approximately 160 kilometers per hour, 45 meters per second, in the direction of the sound's source. Only mature tomatoes, separated from their vines, and less than 10% rotted or chemically compromised, exhibit this effect once each. Tomatoes do not have to be physically intact, although ingested tomatoes are usually insulated from enough sound to prevent their effects before neutralization by stomach acid. Usually. Yeah. SCP-504 tomatoes seem to reach speeds relative to the inciting attempt at humor. See experiment log. Relevant variables seem to include corniness, humor-to-length ratio, and use of puns. Language appears irrelevant. Note: whoever snuck 504 to the cafeteria kitchen is getting terminated. Those tomato slices are like fucking shurikens. Dr. Blast. Oh yeah, and terminated means death. Like, when they say terminated, the Foundation means you are becoming a D-class.
Wow.
Oh, and we'll define, like, universe-specific lore as it comes up, because I think that's the interesting thing about these two, is, like, you're supposed to, at least early on, kind of be able to, like, pick up on the context, and, like, you get by, like, oh, D-class, what the fuck is that? And you can go reading further in the wiki, like, oh, they mean prisoners who are on death row and are going to be terminated 30 days of the end of their testing subject matter, even if they survive or not.
Yeah. I do also want to say...
Sick shit.
I desperately want to know what jokes they used for all the tests they did to figure out those exact measurements.
Well, Dev. It's funny you should mention that, because the next bit of this is log of tests with SCP-504.
Yes!
Item: one mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject: D504-1. Those are the D classes.
I see. Okay.
So every time there's a dash, that's a new person.
Okay.
Spoken: is a hippopotamus, or just a really cool apotamus? Result: no change in velocity. Item: one mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject: D504-1. Spoken: what's an archaeologist? Someone whose career is in ruins. Result: tomato clocked at 124 miles an hour. Subject suffered a broken nose. Notes: it appears that 504 has a certain taste in jokes. This might indicate sapience. I hope not, Dr. Blast. Item: one mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject: D504-2. Spoken: three tomatoes are walking down the street. A papa tomato, a mama tomato, and a little baby tomato. Baby tomato starts lagging behind. Papa tomato gets angry, goes over to the baby tomato and smushes him. Says, "Catch up." Result: tomato clocked at 264 miles an hour. Subject rendered unconscious. Item: one mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject: D504-3. Spoken: so I was going to bed. My brother told me, "Good night," Don't let the bedbugs stick their proboscis up your skin and suck your blood. Good luck on a healthy dermis. Result, 2-second pause before activity. Tomato clocked at redacted. Sound barrier broken. Subject killed.
Oh boy.
Item, 3 mature SCP-504 tomatoes, each from a different crossbreed. Subject, D504-4. Spoken, if you have dentures, don't use artificial sweetener, because you'll get a fake cavity. Result, all 3 tomatoes clocked at exactly 154 miles per hour. Subject injured, 2 teeth dislodged. Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato, split into quarters. Subject, D504-5. Spoken, I tried to walk into a target, but I missed. Result, all 4 pieces clocked at 212 miles per hour. Subject severely injured. Right eye destroyed by piece of tomato. Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject, CD player playing Harmful If Swallowed, 2003, Dane Cook. Result, at redacted, tomato clocked at 167 miles per hour. CD player destroyed. Notes, it works with recordings? Damn it, didn't even have to deal with Class Ds in the first place. So they wasted all of those human subjects.
Yeah.
To then learn you could use a CD player. And they didn't try that first.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. 3 mature SCP-504 tomatoes, 1 for each test subject. Subject. After the introduction to the following news item, bomb blows hole in Lenin statue, the 3 following jokes were made. Test subject 1. Ooh, that's gonna leave a marks. Result. Tomato number 1 twitched, but not displaced from its original location. Test subject 2. BBC is just stalling the good news. Result. Tomato clocked at 152 miles per hour. Chipped tooth and hairline jaw fracture. Test result 3. That blows. Result. Tomato clocked at redacted. Subject is hospitalized with a massive skull fracture. Notes. I thought we just established that recordings work in place of live subjects. I know you guys hate the Class Ds, especially D504-12. Poor guy might not even recover before termination rolls around. But I'm making it clear that whoever oversaw this round of testing is getting a serious reprimand. The same goes for whoever leaked its video logs to the staff. So, like, that's another thing, too, is, like, the people who run this place are fucking sociopaths.
Yeah. And it's great, too, because, like, one of the things I love about this one, you don't always see this with every SCP, but, like, you can tell that, like, there's, you know, despite the cadence of it being like this very official type of language, there's also like people behind the Foundation with, you know, like a work culture, so to speak. And it's just kind of interesting. That level of world building rarely exists with, you know, other things of a similar nature. So
yeah. So here's my favorite one.
Okay.
Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject, television playing the SNL Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton skit. Result, tomato reacted as if confused. Slow motion video shows 3 separate bursts of speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour, 2 incidences of motion at normal throwing speeds, and 1 unprecedented instance of backward motion, all in one trajectory. Dr. King hypothesizes that the tomato was unsure whether or not to, quote, take it seriously.
Oh, gosh.
Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject, a portable computer playing a pre-recorded engineering joke. Transcript, 2009 is going to be a complex year. We already know the real part. We still have to find the imaginary part. Result, supersonic blast detected. Computer was completely vaporized by tomato's kinetic energy. Sensor readings indicate an approximate speed of 3,500 kilometers per hour. 2,174 miles per hour. Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject, a portable computer playing partial audio recording of the Mighty Python sketch, The Funniest Joke in the World. Transcript, When ist das Nunstruct geht und Slotmeyer? Ja. Bierhand us unter die Flippervolt gespult. Result, tomato explodes. Debris clocked at 137 miles per hour. Computer heavily coated by debris. Keyboard ruined by exposure to liquid matter, although the components proved functional after cleanup. Okay. Item, 1 mature SCP-504 tomato. Subject, a portable computer playing the text of SCP-904. Results, data expunged. And now, that's another interesting thing that they do too, is in cross-referencing and examining and testing stuff. You have this interesting sort of like head scratcher where you have these people go like, how would these things kind of interact with each other?
Yeah.
And of course a callous organization would like cross-test to see what would happen. Mm. And so that gets you clicking into SCP-904 and you're like, why would that be scary at the end of a funny thing? And then you read SCP-904 and it's this thing with this fucked up cognitohazard mimetic visual effect. Basically, it's this graffiti that makes artistic people depressed. Is what 904 does.
Interesting.
So then you go like, when it says data expunged, you're like, whoa, that's something fucked up.
I do want to say, Joan mentioned something, the word cognitohazard there. That's one I learned recently. It's kind of like a biohazard, but for your thoughts. Yeah. Is essentially what that is.
Like, you know how QAnon kind of came up and people were like, wow, it's kind of fucked up how this just turns seemingly normal people into unreasonable monsters by pressing very specific parts of the brain in a way that aggravated them and created a specific type of guy. Yeah, SCP Foundation kind of like thought that up as like, wouldn't it be fucked up and scary if that was real?
Yeah, and then the age of misinformation came about.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, grew up a lot with people who like doomsayed about the future by like over worrying about whether or not a technology in the headlines is like a doomsday technology in a sci-fi novel. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it now. Yeah. Seeing SCPs become real, kind of, it's kind of fucked up. I'll say that much. I think that would be probably a good time to take a break before we come back with the next segment.
Sure. And we're back.
Now, Dev, the thing about SCPs that are so great is that the one we read right now, funny, right?
Yeah, it was fun. It made me imagine like somebody just taking a whole shitload of those tomatoes to like a live SNL and just turning into a whole massacre.
Oh yeah, no, Jay Farrow would be the only one walking away from that one alive.
But you have another one planned for us.
Yes, and Dev, the beautiful thing about SCPs is there are funny SCPs, but there are also joke SCPs.
Yes.
And I have you pulled, ready to hover over this one I've selected for us today, SCP-055-DE-J, Large Ham. I want you to kind of describe your experience, kind of scrolling through the joke page, like how it just kind of jumps out at you, you know?
One of the things I like about this is, Large Ham
is in all capital letters.
And it's bold. It's bolded.
And it's in a different, larger font.
Yeah.
It is formatted differently. All caps.
The only other one is the anomalous typeface, which you can mention later. But, Large Ham. Here we go. This is SCP-055-DEJ.
And I would recommend reading along because there are images.
Oh, and the images are glorious. You thought I'd be the one who could deliver this?
Do you think I should? But I want you to read along with this. All right. Okay, so I guess I'll read it. All right. SCP number SCP-055-DE-J. Classification: Super awesome! Special containment procedures. SCP-055-DE-J. It's been made available to everyone in Canteen Site DE-19. That's how good this stuff tastes. Because of minor property damage and noise complaints made by pansies, nobody is allowed to talk about SCP-055-DE-J. The entirety of SCP-055-DE-J is also never to be used completely at once! Description: SCP-DE-J is the most awesome piece of ham in the entire world! Half a meter long, quarter in width, and 10 centimeters thick. That's about 12.5 cubic centimeters of pure excellence with a weight of 5 kilograms!
What do the neighbors think?
JPEG.
What do the neighbors think?
This masterpiece of butchery can be eaten by humans without a problem. At least that's what the geeks from the toxicology say. Doesn't rot either, and you can stuff as much in your mouth as you want, since the awesome stuff just grows right back. Oh yeah! Another JPEG of an explosion. Other Foundation articles are trying to hoax you with dry nerd speech. SCP-055-DEJ can only be described in one way. The right one, in fact. Everyone wants to report SCP-055-DEJ's awesomeness. Does it as loud as possible, as badass as possible, and with a voice that sounds as manly as possible. Yes! Even women! Even printed matter isn't safe. The same sick-ass choice of words, and everything is in capital letters! And with exclamation marks! JPEG explosion. If one describes the glory of SCP-055-DEJ, rad explosions occur spontaneously near the person describing it. Just like that. Nobody knows how it happens, but it doesn't matter anyway. SCP-055-DEJ explosions rock! And then there's another photo of a shipping container exploding. I want you to read it.
A super secret meeting in this container was super lame until someone started talking about SCP-055-DEJ. Then it became bombastic!
So are you saying what this is now? This is what if an SCP were a beef jerky commercial?
Yeah. ...
Biggest JPEG of an explosion. There we go! No idea what animal SCP-055-DEJ came from. Even those eggheads at the Genetic Research Department have absolutely no clue. But everyone in the Foundation can agree that whatever animal it was, it had to be pretty badass if it tastes that neat. The real hardcore boys and girls eat SCP-055-DEJ raw. But the pussies can eat it however they want. Tastes great too, but not incredible. The only exceptions are vegetables. You lay them on one plate or sandwich with SCP-055-DEJ, and you get an explosion right in your damn face. We believe that's because SCP-055-DEJ simply tastes like shit together with vegetables! Addendum 055-J1. Several persons were asked to eat SCP-055-DEJ. Here are their reactions. This is delicious! Agent Straub. This stuff tastes so great! I think I just grew additional chest hair! Dr. Jock. Oh, worship the ham! Agent Von Dorf. I think this ham is pretty okay. Dr. C. Dr. C is currently being tested on any anomalies, as he didn't appreciate SCP-055-DEJ enough!
Oh boy, here we go.
Dev, I want to hear some reactions. I can't keep doing this all in one breath. Come on.
I mean, I what can I do except laugh uncontrollably? Do you want to switch off?
Yeah.
I want to know who Dr. C is, though. Is that a reference to something else?
Sometimes it's just like a doctor. There are some notable characters, but I don't think so. You have to read a bunch of them. Usually, it's like the authors have their own characters in universe or whatever.
Right, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm imagining this in, like, Randy... his name is Randy Savage, right? That kind of wrestler voice, you know?
Yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage.
That's what I'm going for, because, like, he had, like, the beef jerk... The step into a Slim Jim, oh yeah!
Man, I don't remember those commercials, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, they were before my time, too, but, like, that's, just cultural osmosis. I'm also kind of trying to go for, I don't know if you ever saw Ball Masters.
I remember, you showed me that,
There's a character in that named, Trip, I think is his name. He's voiced by Eric Bauza. And he always delivers all of his lines like this!
That's great. Alright. Addendum 055J2. SCP-055-DEJ isn't allowed to be eaten as a whole at the moment, because then it maybe wouldn't regenerate anymore. We also believe that when SCP-055-DEJ is destroyed, an epicness vacuum is created, which would squish the entire universe. Wow! Addendum 055J3. Oh, excuse me. We also wanted to test SCP-055-DEJ's greatness on other SCPs. So here we go!
Then the rest of these are just like, I'm pretty sure these are all, like, referencing, like, commercials.
Yeah.
So they're starting puking a rainbow after eating it, started growling like a mad and grew an ultra cool full beard. Yeah, it's just kind of making fun of, like, all those, like, super over-the-top manly commercials. But within, like, this format. Like, you get what it's going for. It's fucking hilarious. These are really creative. Alright, cool. So there's that one. Now, Dev, I think that I'm going to have you read the next one.
Okay.
I want you to pull up SCP-343. This one is called God. Now, I want you to guess what SCP-343 God is.
Do I get 3 guesses?
You get 1 guess.
Todd Howard.
No. Serious guess.
That's legit the first thing coming to my head, but if I can try. Like,
not what you think God is, Dev. What you think SCP-343 God is.
Yeah,
Remember, they're not all shitposts.
No, I know. Most of them are.
Yeah.
Gosh. I have this feeling like it's some kind of inanimate object. Like, that's kind of the... If I were writing God as an SCP, that's the direction I would go in, is make it some kind of inanimate object.
Okay. Well, I want you to read this one.
Okay. Item number SCP-343. Object class, safe. Special containment procedures. SCP-343 resides in a 6.1 meter by 6.1 meter, 20 foot by 20 foot room at Minimal Security Site 17. It should be brought any items it requests and visited by at least 1 staff member each day. Attempts to add further safety precautions or required clearances are unnecessary and impossible due to the nature of SCP-343 description.
Now, does that immediately set up alarm bells to be like, why is this guy so lax?
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's some sort of anomaly that thinks it's God but isn't. That's kind of where my head's going.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You want me to continue?
Yeah. No, I think that you more or less could be on the money here.
Oh, interesting.
But just the way that this is explored, I think, is very interesting.
All right. Description. SCP-343 is a male, seemingly raceless humanoid, in appearance with apparent omnipotence. SCP-343 was discovered walking the streets of Prague and detained after a staff member witnessed him disappear from the streets and reappear on a rooftop. SCP-343 is detained willingly in his chamber, as containment has proved impossible. See notes. Okay, interesting. Addendum 343-1. SCP-343, colloquially nicknamed God by the staff here, looks like an older man, although his features are different to each observer. In my first talk with him, he claimed outright to be the creator of the universe. When I asked him to prove this, he laughed, walked through the wall of the chamber, and returned seconds later with a hamburger in his hand. When I returned for a second visit, the previously bare cell had been furnished in upscale Old English style, complete with a roaring fireplace, and seemed many times larger than it did from the exterior. SCP-343 greatly enjoys speaking with people and seems to have a knowledge of all topics. Visiting with SCP-343 has become a daily event for many of the staff here, and all employees report feeling generally happier after each visit. Attempts to bar staff below Level 3 clearance have proven unsuccessful, as guards assigned to watch the room quit their posts, saying, "You know he likes company," or shrugging when questioned. Since SCP-343 has thus far been harmless, all staff have been allowed access, and somehow they all have time to meet with him for as long as they need. For now, I leave this report open as further questioning of SCP-343 is ongoing. Dr. Beck.
So, before we move any further, I am thinking of sharing something that I think might have been, that was an interesting byproduct of the site. And that is the fact that a lot of these are living documents.
Yeah.
The authors will update them occasionally. If they have a new idea, they'll add these addendums.
Mm.
But another thing is, sometimes they just make major edits. So versions of the document. I have no way of going back and checking this. But I remember there being some major alterations to this entry for a while before being entered into what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And let's keep reading.
Okay. Warning, security level 4 or higher needed for further access. Addendum 343-2. In regards to document 343-1A, there are no relevant records available or seemingly in existence, and similarly, all records of Dr. Redacted ever working with SCP-343 or Dr. Beck are missing and presumed non-existent. All staff questioned about the document convey ignorance of document number 343-1A and claim not to have met Dr. Redacted. In a related matter, Senior Officer Dr. Beck has requested a higher staff rotation, quote, to increase morale in worse-off sections, unquote. This is a very odd request, and was the subject of further investigation. Other localized anomalies, such as better health, great job satisfaction, and lower fatalities in this section have led to the request being granted. This subject is now closed on orders of O5-redacted. Interesting. Okay. Yep. Things are picking up.
So, 343-1 is a lost document. I remember for a while, I don't know if it was like a part of the metafiction or if there was just some shyster who like went and edited the document for a brief period when this was like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember there briefly being an actual 343-1A document in there at one point. The way that my memory has permutated it might be incorrect. It might have just been a prankster. But in my mind, the fiction was altered in real time and then altered forever to like become a part of the way that this is written. I'm like almost certain that's the way that went down. If anyone else remembers it going down differently, let me know in the comments.
Are you saying that like someone different than the writer wrote 343-1A and then it got taken out? Or
no, I'm thinking that like it was written at one point, explored, and then like edited again to be this version of it.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Like, again, that's how I remember it going down.
See, that's the first time I've ever heard of retconning as a plot device. It didn't occur to me that with SCP you could retcon something and have that be part of the narrative.
Yeah, no, there are a couple of really interesting what-if type scenarios that happen in these official documentations that imply stuff like that. And when cool. you know, if you're a fucking idiot, you try and, like, have all this stuff kind of exist in one continuous multiverse and not thinking of this as, like, oh, these are interesting pieces of fiction that can contradict each other and in those contradictions be interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's also, like, a weird, esoteric sort of type of world.
Yeah, yeah. Built. I'm intrigued. Addendum 343-3. Data recovered on redacted date from routine check of Dr. Redacted's network drive. Document 343-1A. Data lost as of data expunged. Visitors of SCP-343 are to be questioned as to their intent and converse data lost. Questions pertaining to other SCP are to be put forth. Data lost. Orders of Dr. Redacted. So you see a lot more is being pulled out. Document 343-1B. Data lost. Apparently my orders have gone missing. This is the last straw, Dr. B. Data lost. All my reports and requests to higher-ups have gone unnoticed. I will confront SCP-343 tomorrow. Signed, Dr. Redacted.
So the narrative, to me, is that there was a doctor who was disappeared from existence by this guy. Because he was starting to put connections between it and some other unnamed, but, implied to be another supernatural type thing within the Foundation. That someone else put together, and then this thing, disappeared and unalived it.
Yeah.
And the official documentation is reflecting the front that it is putting on.
Okay.
And I think that is very interesting, and the way that it is explored, because, there's a god that is actually evil, pretending to be good. It's not a very unique concept, but the way that it's played with here is very cool.
Props to you. This was the perfect pick for introducing the SCP Foundation. This was because it shows the potential of this type of narrative, where really... it tells the story through the details that it doesn't say.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get out earlier. The way that the Foundation stores its information and the language that it uses to describe it is oftentimes a limitation. And it is both a limitation that breeds innovation within the individual pieces of writing. It is a limitation on the Foundation's actual perception and ability to understand and categorize all these things. And that's important world building. It's important thematic building. It's really interesting trying to figure out ways that a cold, heartless, objective organization would have to describe subjective experiences and emotions and stuff like that. Because oftentimes the things that they're documenting are playing on those types of things in human psychology. That if it was a scary story, it would just be described with flowery language. But
the real trick of horror is showing and not telling. I mean, that's the trick of every, but especially with horror, is it's more just about the details that you show. There's environmental storytelling involved, and this is very good at that, at environmental storytelling. Once you become literate in the Foundation's language over time, but
and this is why I'm yo, just go and read them yourself. Don't let a YouTube man go and say, my theory on the SCP is that blank, because you can also go and hit discuss and go and talk about the thing like it's a piece of art that is to be digested and have a conversation about with a community of people who are in conversation with the creator.
Yeah, there's a link at the bottom of the entry that says discuss, and that leads you to a forum about the SCP itself. It is kind of an experience just sort of going down a rabbit hole on this site that can't really be found anywhere else, and it's almost kind of can't be described. Everybody because there's so many of them, everybody has kind of their own journey when they dive into the SCP Foundation.
Yeah, I think that a lot of when I started to lose touch with the Foundation, it was very... You had a lot of people creating some very good hard sci-fi. Within this setting. And I wasn't vibing with that era, especially 100%. Around the 3000s, 4000s? Yeah, I think 4099 is about where it was getting filled up when I stopped reading them personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's been good to kind of revisit them with you this way. I think that next week we can have another couple of ones we talk about, and we can do that for some Halloween specials. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Sounds good to me. Because I thought that we were going to read way more of these, but we ended up chatting about this a lot.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. I would like to go ahead and give proper citation to the folks who wrote these. SCP-055-DEJ is written by Dr. Orr. DE-J, I was like, there is something going on with that designation. It was originally written in German and then translated into English.
Okay.
So, that's even funnier. The large ham is originally in German.
Das Großham.
Yeah.
Ist für jeden zugänglich in der Kantine von Standort aufzufahren. That's fun. I imagine
So super schmeckt das Zeug halt!
I bet that would be really fun to hear someone read in German.
Yeah, I'm sure someone has. That was the international translator who translated it. Dr. Orr wrote it initially in German. That's another thing too. Is like there's some artistry in the translation too. So it's a really neat little community, and I feel like people get too mired in like the canon thing that they lose the creative process of actually creating these.
Yeah.
A lot. You sort of like should learn how the big ham is made. The creators of these are SCP-504 was written by Blastio Boots from the SCP Wiki. Link in the down there. SCP-343 was written by the legendary Dr. Clef, one of the most respected and honestly one of the foundational members of this website. SCP-055-DEJ was initially written by Dr. Orr and was translated by The Paper Mask. Link in the down there. And that's all that we read today, really, right?
Yep.
We read 3, yeah. Cool. Join us next week. I have one planned already, but now that I think I'm getting a feel for what you like here, I'll try and find a couple for the next time we record.
All right. So I would like to thank Aria for the use of our theme music. You can find her card in the description with links to her socials and her music, YouTube, all that. Go support her. She's great. Do you have any pluggables, Joan?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch. I swear to God, I'm going to start streaming again. I've been having a lot of technical problems, so I haven't been doing it recently, but I'm back on it. Follow me on Instagram. It's where I post all my art. Follow me on Blue Sky. It's also where I post my art. I have a link to my link tree in the description as well.
Yep. Are you still, your comic is still out there too?
Oh, yeah, my comic is still out there. You can go onto my itch. That's also in the link tree. It's an autobio comic about growing up in a household queer when they don't really like it that much and being obsessed with cartoons. But honestly, mostly the second thing.
Yeah. All right. My pluggables are pretty much the same. You know, my webcomic, Devil Went Down to Vegas. Please read it. Great one to read for Halloween, by the way. It's a story about a demon. Culling the Faithful be another good Halloween one, actually. That's a collab I'm doing with the webtoon creator Crazy Chair, creator of Bounties with Teeth, criminally underrated webtoon, great artist. I'm also posting flash fiction on Royal Road, and I think that's about all I have going on. And we will see you on the next episode.
I would also like to encourage for everybody to go and downvote top 10 creepypasta YouTube video.
Yeah, I would like to encourage people to do that too.
All right. And until next time, see you, Space Cowboy.
Yeehaw!